Alright, what's up guys? I'm Dan Sperry and this is Gypsy Thread. This is a very, very old piece of magic and a very, very strong piece of magic. It's kind of had a rebirth and a comeback over the past 20 years with Elaine Choquette on World's Greatest Magic, doing it under a black light with UV thread. So there's tons of different ways to present this, different variations. Another guy is Henry Evans from Argentina, who uses flash paper for his restoration of the thread. I learned it when I was a teenager from a very talented female magician named Suzanne, who pulled a thread out of her glove and did it in a very theatrical close-up setting. This can be done close-up stage and using patter or music. There's tons of different ways to do this, and with that said, let's get into the explanation. Okay, so here's what you're going to need in order to accomplish the Gypsy Thread mystery. You may want to buy some candles. Let's just talk about this real quick. This trick can be presented a couple different ways. One way is actually breaking the thread in your hands as part of the presentation. A more theatrical version, if this works for you, is to use candles to break the thread. This was kind of made popular by like Eugene Berger and stuff to break the thread over the flame. Now the type of candle is important. We use these candles just for the ambiance. You obviously don't need 5 candles. It looks sexy, but it is important to get a candlestick type candle. Or if you just want to go out and buy these cylindrical candles every couple shows, that's fine too. The problem with these is the flames burn into the candle. Those of you that are candle buffs, maybe you're Yankee Candle fans, work at the Hallmark store. Not that there's anything wrong with that, it's kind of lame, but you're gonna want a candlestick because the wick stays on the outside. So that makes the flame easier to burn the thread, for lack of better vocabulary, because my vocabulary is about that big. So you're gonna want a candle that allows the flame to stay accessible. So, that was difficult. You're also going to need some thread. We used white thread because it's easy to see. Often, if you're going to be wearing black or in a darker setting, the white thread is going to show up. Now, this is just kind of some general all-purpose thread we got at Walmart for like $1. But it's important that when you go to buy the thread, if you can, kind of get a little tail to pop out and try breaking it in your hands and make sure it's easy to break. You don't want to get like upholstery thread or something that is going to cut into your skin when you're trying to break the thread. You're a magician, you shouldn't have to struggle with this. So make sure that it's thread that you can easily snap and break in case you do choose to use the hand breaking height method. So you're going to need some thread. You're also going to need something like a pen. This one is a rubber pen. No, it's not. Okay, you're going to need like a pen or something kind of cylindrical that so when you set up the preparation, you can slide it off easily. You don't want something bumpy that the thread could get caught up on. We'll go over that in a minute, but something cylindrical, a pen, a straw works awesome, and you can drink out of it, so you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. If you're going to be a professional magician, you're going to want to learn these little tricks of utilizing a straw because you know you might be poor for a while. That's just how it goes. So straws, you can drink stuff, your drink, and then set up your gypsy thread and you know, spitballs. It's up to you. So these are just the very simple little things that you're going to need to do the gypsy thread illusion. So now that we got that covered, let's go into the setup, secret stuff. Nobody's supposed to see you do. Let's go now. Let's go. Okay, so you've got your candle or candles. You've got your pen or object. We're just going to call this the object. And you have your thread, you have yourself, and you are ready to set this up. Now, here's how I set gypsy thread when I've done it. There are different ways of doing this. This was just what works best for me. Obviously, you're going to have to pre-wind some thread. Some people prefer to have the wound thread in front. We'll just say in front, so that when you're pulling out the thread, you're already pinching it, hiding it in between your thumb and first finger. Again, we'll get into further detail of that in a minute. Or I prefer to have it already loaded further down in the thread so that it can be totally clean and showing my hands. So here's how you set that up. You're gonna wanna figure out how long you want your thread. I usually just go a little bit past shoulder length. So this is what you do to figure out that length. That's it. Once you're in this position, I pinch the thread about where I want it to be at, and I bring the rest down like this. So now I'm doubling the length. Pinch down here, and this part I tuck into, there's always gonna be that weird little slit in the spool, and I just tuck that in there so I know I don't end up getting more thread than I need. Go back to find the center. Oh, this is cute. You don't want to get a knot in here. Go back to find the center again, or thereabouts. Close enough. Pinch right here. Now you're gonna take your object and stick it on there, and all I do is I just start winding. Just make sure it doesn't get tangled up in the other length. So start winding. You guys watched Seinfeld last night? Me neither. Unwind, unwind. Wind, 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 wind. Down, 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 down. Down, 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 down. So now we're here. That little part's tucked in there. Pull this part off. And this all is a nice little packet right here. And just to be safe, I just give it a couple winds like this. Just to tighten it up a little bit, and it makes a nice, neat little package. Now, depending on where you're gonna be performing this, I do one of two things. Oh, that's not good. I either tuck this into the spool or I leave it on the back. If you're in a more controlled environment, you can leave it on the back. Or the cool thing about these spools is you push down and now you have a little pocket. This gets loaded into the cute little pocket, and then you rewind the spool so you can set it down and be totally clean from all angles. You pick it up, you put your thumb over it, nobody knows the wiser. Or if you don't like that, you can keep it on the outside here, and then you just wind over there a couple times so that it doesn't fall off, and you wind everything back up. And again, I use that little slit to my advantage. Tuck that in there. So there you are with your cute little packet on the background, or tucked in there, depending on how you want it. And you're good to go. Now again, the cool thing about this is you don't start with the, we'll call it the coil, on top. So now you don't have to worry about a way of keeping that from popping open because it's already farther down. So you can go and set up the rest of your stuff, get your mnemonica stacked deck ready and whatever else you're doing. And this can go in your pocket, or your pocket, on the table, behind the candle, whatever you want really. It's up to you. This is your effect, make it your own. And this is it, you're set to go. So that's basically all the preset you need to do, and now you're ready for the performance. All right, so here's the handling. Look what I can do. Okay, handling of the gypsy thread. You have your little setup, however you're gonna do this. Your candle's lit, wax poured over your body, and your spool with the coil hidden via your favorite method. Begin by picking up the spool. In this case, we're gonna just have it loaded on the back, and just keep your thumb over it so you can show it. You're totally clean. Unclip or whatever the little thing from the slit there, and all you're doing is unwinding the spool basically. So just unwind, just be sure to show your hands empty, and what's kind of neat is you can trade hands. So this looks like, you know, nothing, you don't got anything, totally clean. Unwind, and you want to watch for when it's coming up, for when you need to grip the coil. So you get to the point that you're at where the thread has come to the coil. So you come back around, and now we're going to use the candle method for the breaking of the thread. But again, if you're going to use your hands, this is where you would pinch it and snap, or in this case, we're losing our coil here from sloppy preset, but your coil is pinched between the thumb and first finger, and it should just look like you're just pinching the thread. So as you pull it, you unwind, you either snap, or in this case, you burn with the candle. Put the spool away, you don't need that anymore, and now you can display your thread. Now just all you have to do is start breaking or burning the thread into pieces. Careful of the fire there. Depending on what kind of thread you use too, let me just make a point of this. If you get the 100% cotton, this is a mix, but if you get pure 100% cotton thread, it will burn, and you might have to blow it out to make it stop, because it just basically burns itself into dust or whatever that stuff's called. What's that stuff called? Ash. Ash. Oh, you almost had me. Okay, so now you're here, you have all the pieces on top of the coil. So now what you can kind of do that's kind of fun is show cleanly. And what I usually do is I pick a couple pieces at a time, just to really show that these are separate. So you pick a couple pieces, you twirl and wind, and basically you're gathering everything up into a small little ball. Did I drop that one? No. Yes, now I did. Okay. You're winding it up into a small little ball packet. Like this. Coil, 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 wind, 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 wind. And you can show what you have in your hands here. All right, so you've got the coiled up thread in your right hand. This is the one that you left behind. You left behind the set thread. The ones that you have now been coiling in your left hand, or opposite hand, depending on how you're handling this, these are all the separate pieces, and you've wound them up into a little ball. Okay, so what this is going to look like now is that you've got one strand here that you've left behind. All the other separate strands are here, and you're going to stick it on the thread. This is where some acting is going to come into play. I don't really, some guys just kind of stick it on there and, pull it. I kind of go for a little bit more of a play, for lack of a better term, a little bit more of a struggle, because, you can't really take a piece of thread and just go bunk, I mean, maybe you could if you were a real magician, but, let's go for the more organic feeling with this one. But that's just me again. So you have your pre-wound coiled piece here. Now here comes the little switcheroony. You've got the separate pieces, and the coiled piece is between the thumb and index finger here. Now this stuff, the separate pieces, you're gonna come up like this, like you're sticking it like a magnet. And let's see if we can make this as visible as possible. This is what you're seeing. This is what I see. This is the exposed view. You stick it, and I roll and switch. So now basically doing a transfer and stick, and I send the separate pieces farther back down my finger, if that makes sense. So now what I can do is pull back like this, and this looks like really the thread is sliding up against the separate pieces, but from the front and from a distance, it looks like this, like there's space. Okay, but really there's not. It's just riding along the coiled pieces here. So anyway, so that's where you're at. You're like this, and you can display and just really kind of take your time with this now, because this, to them, could be a trick. The trick could be over, because now you've gotten the pieces to stick onto the thread. And the rest of it, again, is just acting. Now do this slow, because this isn't restored yet. Psychologically, I feel at least, this is not restored yet. It's restoring as you're pulling it. So keep that in mind. This isn't restored yet, so don't just go, oh, booyah. Let it sit there and slowly let this restore as you pull it. That's the magic. And this is where this just gets strung, as you just slowly start to pull it. And it just makes this really cool unwinding, like this kind of coiled. It makes me think of when you spray a bug with like Raid or pest spray, and they just coil up and spaz. That just looks really pretty right there. Look at that. Oh yeah, that's magic. And there you have your thread, and it's restored. You can go south with this however you like, because you're still holding the coiled up pieces in your right hand after it has been restored. But this is, this is such a natural way to hold it. It's such a clean way. You can wind this back up, put it in your pocket, do whatever you want with it. If you're on stage, doesn't really matter what you do with it. You put it down behind the candle, what have you. But that's basically the unwinding handling of the gypsy thread, just like that. Okay, so here's a recap on the transfer of the threads. You have the dirty thread, the loaded one right here in your right hand, pinching the coil between the thumb and first finger. Okay, that's secretly back there to the audience. You're just holding one little piece of thread. This is just the lonely runt that got left behind. These ones have been coiled up and balled up in your left hand with the thumb and index finger here. And here's the transfer again. So, again, what you want it to look like is you're just bringing it and sticking it on there. In reality, what you're doing is you're coming over and doing a swap, for lack of a better term. You're swapping them. You're doing just basically rolling one above, one below, putting the separate pieces as far back, almost underneath your first knuckle of your index finger. So you got kind of this kind of action going on. And you stick and just kind of give some space here. So from the front, you stick, you get some space. So now it looks like, ooh, that's clever. Look at that, interesting. So now the separate pieces are farther back, like I said, and what you can have is this illusion of space that your thumb and index finger are actually separated, but they're not, because you're still holding this. So you're over, you can, squeeze, give a little bit more space, and then, you're pinching so you can let go. And this just looks like from the front, like you've just let go, but you really haven't. So you slide this down, you regrip, blow, concentrate, do whatever you like. Again, remember, it's not restored yet. Psychologically, it's not restored yet. Now it's restoring. So take your time with this and just let this build. I kind of like to pull and just stop, like so it can catch up, or that I can catch up to it. And there you are. Restored. And you're left in this really clean position, still with the dirty thread pinched here. But at this point, this is such a strong moment that, nobody's gonna know that you have thread here, so there really is no rush or no hurry to get rid of it. So just pause, let that sink in, coil it up or whatever, and go south with this, put it in your pocket. Or if you have a candle, perhaps you can take the thread and, under the guise of picking up the candle, drop it in the wax, ditch it in the candle, ditch it behind the candle as you pick it up to blow it out. Whatever, as you hand this out, you just put this right in your pocket under the misdirection of handing this out to somebody to look at. There's really an endless number of ways to get rid of this. Sniff it up your nose if you want. I don't really care what you do with it. But you're really in no hurry to get rid of this. So that's the handling of gypsy thread. Okay, here are some common pitfalls, things that can go wrong in doing gypsy thread. The most common one that you're probably gonna run into when practicing this is when you're pulling for the restoration, the thread's gonna get tangled and in a knot, and you're gonna sit there with this big giant knot in your thread and you can't pull it out anymore. It's okay, it's gonna happen. It happens to the best of us, like Jonathan Bain. And there's really no out. That's the unfortunate thing, is there really isn't an out to this. So it's been kind of a trend to do this as the heartstring tugging, no pun intended, encore of shows. I really wouldn't recommend it, because if you blow your encore or your one more song type moment, they're gonna remember that, and that's not good. The only way to overcome that, I should say, is by just practicing the coil wind and just making sure that you're not looping it all messed up and weird. It's really gonna probably happen hardly ever, as long as you just keep practicing it. The only other things that can go wrong is the reaction of the spectator based on your performance. The trick not necessarily going wrong, but your performance in this piece. Because this is such a small little miracle, it's important to go slow. Don't, like I said, don't just put the coil on there and just go wham, it's restored, because with something as small as this, it's gonna look fishy. Something's gonna look weird, something's gonna look wrong, and you're just gonna blow the whole moment. The whole power behind this is its simplicity of how small it is and just how delicate of an effect this is. And just the beauty of watching that knot uncoil itself and restore as it's coming back together is such a strong piece of magic, and done in the right setting, the right context, is an amazing little piece of sorcery. So just take your time and practice, and just get caught up in the effect yourself, because it's really, once you're at this point to pull and do the restoration, you're clean, the dirty work, the hard part is done. So sit back and really get caught up in this moment with your audience so you can share this with them. And that's where the real power and the strength will come from in this, in this mini illusion. Okay, here's some final thoughts and ideas to leave you with for this. First and foremost, just be yourself when you're doing this. Don't try and implement some sappy story that is obviously forced and not you. Just again, it's like as if you were gonna start making it snow. Don't start making up some stupid story that obviously isn't true or you're taken from somebody else. Make this your own bit of magic. Make it your own unique presentation, and that's when it will also find its own strength, is when you put yourself into this effect, as with all aspects of your magic. If you're going to be doing this close up, you're probably going to want to be breaking the thread. It's kind of lame to be carrying a candle around, lighting it, and breaking it. In the close up sort of intimate setting, this is just as strong silent. You don't have to be talking through this. Even if you're not on a big stage doing this, that doesn't mean that you can't use music and you have to talk. This is such a strong piece. Try it silent without words, and just let your audience find the music or the words in their own head as they're watching this happen in front of them. If you're on stage, you can definitely use the UV thread with the black light. It shows up beautifully, like Elaine Choquette did, and you don't necessarily need like a projection screen or any of that craziness. The UV thread shows up amazing, so you really shouldn't need that. If you are going to be doing this silent and you're finding music for it, I mean, obviously find something that is appropriate. Don't be using Cotton Eye Joe to this or whatever. Find something that complements it, but yet doesn't take away from the effect. Again, that can be applied to magic just in general when you're putting together a routine or anything. Just make sure that everything that you're doing when you're putting this together is going to be appropriate, and that those aspects don't take away from the actual magic, that instead they actually help lift the magic to an even stronger level. So those are just a couple little extra notes and tidbits. Again, just keep practicing the winding. You don't have to set the whole thing. Just practice the wind and load it and then pull it apart. That's all you really have to practice, just to make sure that you're getting the handling of it down and you're getting the rhythm of the wind. The rhythm of the wind, or the wine, if you're a wino. I don't know. But yeah, so that's Gypsy Thread. Have fun with that one, because that is a strong little piece of magic that you got in your arsenal now. So from all of us here at Theory 11, thank you and good night.
You